Here we go. All right. So, Tetzaveh. Tetzaveh. You will command. Let's talk to our Elohim and we'll take a look at the salad that is our life, I guess. Father, we thank you for this opportunity to study your word. We ask that you will open our eyes, open our ears, and open our hearts so we can see, hear, and understand your word and our relationship with you. We thank you in the name of Yeshua. Amen. All right, so far in this Exodus from Egypt, we've gone through a reintroduction to who Yahweh Elohim is. Okay, we've gone through the starting of cleaning the house, the personal house. We've gone through becoming dependent on it as opposed to becoming dependent on what we were given in slavery. And then we begin to mold ourselves in order to be able to fall into this relationship more properly. So we have 600,000 people that have to learn how to get along and become a nation. So within all of this, they're starting to put together the tabernacle so that they can have their worship, unified worship. But how does it relate to us as far as putting our tabernacle together so that we can enter into worship with our Elohim on a regular basis? Last week in Teruma, we considered the idea that we have to be willing, we have to want to be in this relationship. So now we're going to take another aspect of that in this word Tetzaveh that we'll learn in a minute, aside from meaning and you will command or you will command, also means you will take charge. Okay? So what do we do to take charge is basically what we're looking at in Tetzaveh. Again, we looked at the need to have a desire to be in the relationship, and now that we have a desire to be in a relationship, how do we take charge of ourselves in coming into this relationship? Okay? So, Parsha Tetzaveh gives an account of the specifications for the lighting of the menorah, the garments of the Kohanim, and the construction of the altar. When we read it as history, we simply have information about a long time past, or a time long past. And so we get a whole lot of insight as to more stuff that they're making. The last Torah portion dealt with the construction of the tabernacle and the furnishings. This is dealing with the light of the menorah, the clothing for the Kohanim, and things like this. But when we look for an application to our own lives, we find a means of not only greater capacity to connect to our Elohim, but a greater capacity to walk in our daily lives. So in this particular study, we're going to re-examine the oil that is brought for the menorah, and we're going to look at some of the aspects of the clothing of the Kohanim. So we start in Shemot, chapter 27, 20 and 21. It says, "And you will command the children of Israel that they bring to you pure olive oil beaten for the light, to cause a lamp to burn continually." All right, so we have to consider that in the Torah, everything that is commanded is still voluntary. I have to want to do it. Okay, so when we look for this this word, the title word, the Torah portion is Tetzaveh, that from the English we consider to mean will command. And we have to take into account that this word also means to have charge over. Basically, who is responsible for the oil for the menorah? Here it is the children of Israel will take charge of bringing the oil. The children of Israel will have the responsibility of bringing the oil. So for us, we have the responsibility of bringing the olive oil, okay, which in this case, a representation of truth, but it's, well, let's keep on going before I give it all away. So let's consider this. We are to have charge over bringing the oil to light the lamp that is placed before Elohim. Okay, so what is the light that we place before Elohim? What's going to be our life? Okay. Our daily wrestling against Elohim, mixed with times in our day where Elohim prevails in our lives, is a constant grinding and crushing of the olive that is our life. Okay, so how do you make olive oil? You take the olives and you stick them in a press, and in these days they had a big old grinding mill doohickey that ground them up, seeds and all, and it spit out oil. Okay, so the word used for beaten is katit, that from the root word katat means to crush into pieces, specifically into fine pieces. All right. So there's no single aspect about our lives. Every day is an assortment of pieces that we seek to put together, sometimes in the form of success, sometimes in the form of failure. So extra virgin olive oil still contains some fragments of olive in its mix. Okay, if you get extra virgin olive oil, the good stuff, it's still going to have stems, and it's going to have chunks of the seed, and it's going to have pieces of the olive in it. They say it tastes better. I don't know. I haven't gotten that far. I mean, who wants to spend that much money for olive oil, right? All right. So extra virgin olive oil contains the fragments. It is still cloudy, as is virgin olive oil, although it's without the pieces and perhaps a little less cloudy. Okay, so these are the states of being that most of us go through life in. We can consider that these two types of oil for the gourmet are the most desirable as they present a robust flavor. Okay, so they're ground, they're still pieces, it's cloudy, and that is a lot of times how we walk through day to day. It's cloudy because we're seeking truth. We're trying to figure out the right direction to go in everything, because none of us actually wants to be wrong about something, although we end up being wrong quite often. Speaking from personal experience. Okay. So these are the states of being most of us go through life. We can consider these two types of oil. Okay. It's exactly how we live our lives if we're honest with ourselves. But what makes life palatable? So take into account that we can eat a gourmet meal in the dark, or more desirable by dim candlelight. Okay? Well, I'm going to get ahead of myself, so I'll just read it. Yahusha asked a question. He asked, is life only about eating, drinking, and what you wear? So, okay, extreme Cliff Notes version. The whole story, or the whole line, is at Matthew 6:26-29. So there's more to our existence than what our lower brain, in scientific terms, our reptilian brain, our limbic brain, requires. What we can also consider is that unrefined olive oil is difficult to ignite. Okay? So we have cloudy, real cloudy olive oil that has chunks and pieces of seed and pieces of stem and stuff like that. You're going to have a harder time getting it to catch fire. What the children of Israel were bringing was an olive oil that was in a pure state. Okay, it wasn't extra virgin, it wasn't virgin. This was refined. All right. So it'll burn, but not as well as pure olive oil that's been filtered to remove the pieces and the very fine pieces that make the oil cloudy, and as such, difficult to ignite. So with this in mind, let's re-examine this idea. There is no single aspect of our lives. Every day is an assortment of pieces that we seek to put together, sometimes in the form of success, sometimes in the form of failure. Is it possible that a desire to produce light in every aspect of what we do is doable? Is it practical? If an olive-shaped problem or issue and they're all olive-shaped, strikes you in the head, do you simply crush it so that it won't hit you again, or do you crush it to find the truth that drives the problem or the issue? The refined oil in it. Okay, so again, oil is a representation of truth within the Torah. They are to bring refined oil. They are to seek to bring truth and to find truth. Okay, so can I find truth in something that's gone terribly wrong? Is there truth in something that goes terribly wrong? For most of us, we say no. There's nothing that we can find good about something that's bad. But it's because we always want to look at the negative side of something that goes wrong. Is there anything that we can find positive in the bad situation, to where we can start working on the positive aspect of it to make the whole thing turn around? Okay, the whole forged in fire thing. You know, I lost because of a quarter of an inch short on the Bowie knife. So it would be, oh, it's a terrible thing I lost and all this stuff. But instead, it just makes something that's a quarter of an inch bigger, and then you have something that is positive that comes out of a negative. Okay? Anyway, there we go. Is it possible that a desire to produce light in every aspect that we do is doable? Is it practical? Again, if an olive-shaped problem, and all of them are olive-shaped, hits you, what are you going to do with it? Do you simply crush it so it won't hit you again, or do you crush it, find the truth that drives your problem or issue, and refine the oil in it, so that you can produce light from it and avoid it ever being hurled at you again? Okay? To do something that doesn't work one time is a trial. To do the exact same thing and expect a different result over and over and over again is the definition of insanity. Okay? If I get hit in the head with an olive, do I crush the olive to get the oil? Do I find out why it went wrong and then alter my game plan to fix it? Okay? Keep in mind that the olive doesn't have to come at you whole. In life, food fights, chunks of olive, in life's food fights, chunks of olives can be hurled as well, making an even bigger mess. So are your olives beaten for the light, or are they beaten for a primal existence? Are your olives beaten for the light? Are you looking to find the oil that will find truth in a matter, or are you simply trying to extract something from every situation so that you can get through it, whether you learn something from it or not? Okay? So if we're going to consider that we're created in the image and likeness of Elohim, and that we are a tabernacle that he inhabits, then we have to consider that in everything that we do, we must seek to cause a lamp to burn continually. All the fragments of the olives that we encounter must be beaten pure. Okay? If I am, my life, my existence, my being is the tabernacle that the Ruach HaKodesh inhabits, then I have to try to make that the best possible habitation I can throughout my life, which means that just doing stuff just to get by is no longer the way to go about things. What is life? Do I go through life just to get through life, or do I try to find some enjoyment in this gift that I've been given? Okay. All right. There we go. So all the fragments of the olives that we encounter must be beaten pure. So let's consider Shemot 28:3 to see what clothing we're to wear if we are to bring the light into our lives. Okay. So in Tetzaveh, the children of Israel are commanded to bring beaten olive oil, beaten pure, so that they can light the menorah. The Kohanim are going to be responsible for keeping the menorah lit with the oil that is brought from the people. Okay? And if we look at this from an application point of view, then I have to live my life truthfully. Because without living my life truthfully and walking in the light, I cannot be a Kohanim to anyone. I cannot bring light to anyone else's life. You know, nobody wants to hang out with someone who is constantly negative about everything. I have to become positive, okay? Even in the midst of negative things, I have to find the good in the bad. That is not to say that I call what is evil good and call what is good evil. But I try to find some light in it in order to keep the darkness from overtaking it. Okay? Alright, so Shemot 28:3. Let's take a look at the close. And you will speak to all that are wise-hearted, whom I have filled with the spirit of wisdom, that they make Aaron's garments to set him apart, that he may minister to me in the Cohen's office. Okay? We need to keep in mind that the dude that is in charge of making all of this stuff is a guy named Bezalel. And Bezalel means in the image and likeness of Elohim. So if I am making garments for the minister to wear, if I'm making garments for me to be able to wear in bringing light to someone else, I have to do that in the image and likeness of Elohim. What does that mean? Does it mean that I look like Elohim? I look like the little old man that's floating around in some throne in heaven? Or does it mean that I have the capacity to think, to judge, to act, to have free will in the same way that Elohim has? I was created to be able to think. In fact, Psalm says that we are we not all Elohim? Okay? Not to say that we are some deity and ooh-ah, but we are to act with judgment. We are to act with authority, and we are to act with judgment and authority to bring restoration into our lives. Again, Tetzaveh. Does it mean I will command you, or does it mean you will take charge of your life? Okay? So something to keep in mind that, yes, there is Yahuwah, who is Elohim, our mighty judge, who has the authority to redeem, deliver, restore us. He's that mighty force in our lives that in which we move and live and have our existence. But I am made in his image, and I also must become the force that brings restoration, that brings redemption, deliverance. But I can't do that by myself. I have to be connected. Does that make sense? I hope. Okay, good. All right, so Parshat Tetzaveh is unique in that the name of Moses is never mentioned. The verses only state, and you will. So we can consider that our names are never specifically mentioned in the Torah, yet we seek to apply what the Torah says to our lives. Our names are never specifically mentioned in the Torah, but we seek to apply the instruction to our lives. The word for wise-hearted is chachemi lev. So we have the word chachemi, which means wise ones, but it takes on a personal idea that I am wise. This word comes from the roots chakam, that means to be wise, to act wisely, and to teach wisdom. Okay? So if I say that chakam means to be wise, to act wisely, and to teach wisdom, what is a kohanim? Kohanim is someone who ministers to someone else and teaches someone else. Okay? It's not this idea of, ooh, he's a priest and he wears robes and gives people bread and wine when they line up. And it's someone who takes charge of caring for other people and showing other people. But I can't care for or show other people if I'm always producing the wrong kind of oil that can't light a light. All right? All right. So, hakam, to act wise, it can also mean to show yourself to be wise as well as to act deceitfully. So now we have the difference between good, pure olive oil and the chunky monkey virgin or extra virgin. Okay? So, to show yourself to be wise or to act deceitfully. can I pretend to be wise and at the same time deceive you? Because I'm living in a world of cloudy olive oil. Does that make sense? Okay. The word lev means heart, but also refers to who we are inside. It refers to the mind, our knowledge, thinking, reflection, and memory, as well as our resolution, determination, and conscience. It reflects our moral character and is the seat of our courage and fear, our emotions, passions, and appetites. And all of these hinge on our wisdom. Whether we seek to become better than we are and purify the oil that we present, or whether we seek to act deceitfully and are just present cloudy oil, or just present cloudy oil. It's how we approach the garments that clothe Aaron. Aaron means the light bringer. Okay, so if I am the one bringing the light through ministering and acting wisely and teaching others and being compassionate, then I have to be dressed in a certain way. Okay? So these are going to determine whether we are set apart in our ministry to our Elohim as his Cohen, his teacher and his minister, to the world around us. One important note, very important, this is not a religious idea. Okay? This is not a religious idea. The Torah is not a religious book. The Bible is not a religious book. It's a book of instruction on how to live life. Okay? When I go to Walmart and I buy whatever it is that I buy at Walmart, I'm not going there, ooh, I'm in prayer, I'm a priest, and I'm not. Going to Walmart is not a religious experience. It's a life experience. Nothing about the Torah is a religious thing in the sense of churchiness or stuff like that. I mean, we all have religion. The definition of religion is simply a system of belief. Atheists are religious in that sense. They have a system of belief. They just happen to not believe in anything. Okay? But they still believe that there isn't anything. All right? All right. So we have to choose what we present. The Torah is an everlasting document in that it is infinite in its application. So here we can put ourselves in the position of Aaron and be the ones who are to wear the garments of the Cohen. Each of these garments is designed to remind us of aspects of our own personality and the lives that personality affects. Okay? We all dress in these garments. Okay? Has nothing to do with the clothes we put on. Back here, it's telling us history. These are the clothes that they made, and this is what Aaron wore. We read this, at Peshat, at the topical level, but we have to go down deeper in order to apply it. All right? So, verse 4 of 28. And these are the garments which they shall make: a breastplate, and an ephod, and a robe, and a tunic of checkerwork, a turban, and a girdle. I guess they were big, so they just had to put that girdle on that. Anyway, and they shall make set-apart garments for Aaron your brother. Now, the word that's used for set apart is kodesh. These are dedicated to a certain thing. Okay? And that has nothing to do with being holy. These aren't divine garments, because this is not a religious idea in that sense. These are garments specific for a purpose, and I wear garments specific for a purpose, and I go and I change clothes when I have a different purpose to do. Okay? Aaron your brother and his sons, that he may minister to me in the Cohen's office. Sounds serious. Got to go to the Cohen's office. I like going to the principal's office. I don't know. So we consider the breastplate and the ephod in our look at Teruma. The breastplate is what protects our hearts. It's what keeps our emotions in check. And if we are truly wise-hearted, allows us to tap into the components of our wisdom, our experience, both good and bad. How do I get experience? I get experience through doing things. How do I know what's good and what's bad? I experience failure, and then I know the difference between the two. Okay? So, our experience is both good and bad. To keep our emotions, passions, and appetites in check. The ephod contains the Urim and the Thummim, which I can never pronounce. It's our garment that allows us to seek the wisdom of Elohim before we choose to make a decision. Remember, they had these two little dice things, and they'd roll these two little dice things, and that's how they'd make a choice. Okay, it's the crazy 8-ball of the desert. Okay, but Elohim directed what was going on with these two pieces so that they knew what the will of Elohim was. But it's carried within this piece of clothing. So we have within our garment something that allows us to seek the wisdom of Elohim before we choose to make a decision. So let's consider an idea from the study of our spiritual armor. Authorities, their target areas is the heart. In the heart is where we feel, where our emotions to divide and conquer. Love never fails. The breastplate of righteousness protects us from temptation, pride, and vanity. So I have to wear this breastplate, and I'm not putting on a piece of armor. Again, it's an understanding that I wear something that allows me to keep my emotions in check so that I don't fly off the handle half-cocked when something goes wrong. Okay? Why? Because if I fly off the handle when something goes wrong, then I cannot look at something that went wrong and understand why it went wrong. All I see is something that went wrong and I shut down. Okay? I look at the negative instead of trying to find some resolve in it that I can learn something from it. Okay? Verse 31 says, "And you will make a robe of the ephod all blue." So again, the word for blue is techelet, the same word used to describe the blue thread on the tzitzit that reminds us to remember the word of Yahuwah, our Elohim, in our daily affairs. Blue is a color that represents our mental capacity and our ability to think and act wisely according to the agreement with the word of Yahuwah, his Torah. Okay? According to our being in agreement with the Torah, the word of Yahuwah. Is that a religious statement? Okay? Most people would say, oh, well, you're talking about following that Bible thing. I'm following the instructions. The instructions are the thing that tells me how to treat another person, how to treat myself, how to respect myself. The word for robe is umeil, that refers to a garment that covers the outer body so that it's not naked. The word to consider in this word is the root ma'al, that means to act unfaithfully and to transgress against both Elohim and our fellow human beings. The covering that once belonged to the Adam was the covering of Yahuwah Elohim. Because of transgression, his nakedness was covered by skins. The Adam became a carnally minded being. Okay? The Adam became a carnally minded being. Okay? Adam is a word for humankind, so it doesn't separate guys from ladies. This is all of us. Adam means humankind, all of us. Okay? We are all carnally minded. Our first impulse is based on that limbic brain. Emotion pops in and says, you have to have that $20 flashlight on the impulse aisle at Walmart, even though you have 4 of them in your glove box, because every time you see that thing, you buy another one because you figure out you have one. Okay? That's the limbic brain. It's emotionally fed. Okay? Here we have the opportunity to allow Elohim to clothe us in his anointing once again. This is the relationship that we seek to build between ourselves and Yahuwah Elohim. The tunic of checkered work, the uchetonet tashbetz, try to say that 5 times real fast, also describes something that we have come to call chainmail. The tunic in this verse refers to a coat made of weaved material and not armor. We must consider the idea of armor. Although chainmail offered some protection in battle, it also required the one wearing it to be skilled in the art of war. We have some protection from the enticements of the Satan, but without our desire to learn how to counter his enticements that cut into our emotions, passions, and appetites, our armor will eventually be pierced. Okay? I have to know how to be a tactician to get through life. I can ride in a tank all day long. If I don't know how to use it, then it really makes